About a year ago, I dove headfirst into Bryan Johnson's Blueprint protocol by spending 75 days doing his workouts and eating his diet. Over that 75-day period, I lost a total of 28 pounds and I saw a number of biomarkers improve. Since that initial experiment with Blueprint, I've spent roughly 100 days on the protocol. I've also spent a ton of time researching and doing my best to understand what Blueprint is really about. And I found that what 99% of people are focusing on with Blueprint kind of misses the whole point. So if you're thinking about trying Blueprint, or if you're just curious what this crazy protocol is all about, then stick around. My goal with this video is to help explain Blueprint, explore some of the changes that have been made in the protocol over the past year, and to help you supercharge your health journey if you decide to opt in. Before we go any further, here's a quick plug. I have created a guide to Blueprint in 2024, and it's completely free. So if you want access to this Notion document, which is a complete guide to Blueprint and really my whole approach to biohacking, then make sure to sign up for free in the link in the description. All right, let's jump into the video. When you watch a video about Bryan Johnson or you see an article about him, it's really easy to get caught up in all the crazy futuristic stuff that he's doing and think to yourself, this is what Blueprint is. The truth is, Blueprint is really just a protocol designed to answer a very simple question. Can an algorithm take better care of you than you can yourself? I remember when I first heard Bryan say this on a podcast, I was like, okay, yeah, so what? I didn't really get the concept of your life being run by an algorithm until I read Homo Deus. The book explains the concept of an algorithm like this. An algorithm is a methodical set of steps that can be used to make calculations, resolve problems, and reach decisions. An algorithm isn't a particular calculation, but the method followed when making the calculation. Okay, that was a lot of words. If you glossed over a little bit there, stick with me because I promise this will make more sense. According to what I just read, an algorithm is a method followed when making a calculation. So here's a really simple breakdown of the method or algorithm that Blueprint uses. Step 1, determine the desired outcome. Step 2, conduct baseline measurements. Step 3, take action. Step 4, analyze results. Step 5, adjust your actions. Bryan has said before that one of his goals with Blueprint is to slow his speed of aging. That would be his desired outcome. So then he would measure his baseline speed of aging, then take action by eating in a caloric deficit, sleeping well, and improving his VO2 max. Then he and his team analyze the results, and then they adjust their approach as needed. Later on in the video, we'll look at a few adjustments they've made to the protocol. Okay, so that's the Blueprint algorithm. And the question behind Blueprint was, can an algorithm take better care of you than you can yourself? So, is it working? Bryan's biomarkers have gotten a lot better. When I tried it, my biomarkers, for the most part, all got a lot better. I've met and talked to tons of people that have done Blueprint or parts of the Blueprint protocol, and their biomarkers have gotten a lot better. So I think that at least on some levels, we can say, yes, Blueprint can take better care of you than you can yourself. Something that I've been thinking about quite a bit over the past year is that if you don't opt into an algorithm like Blueprint, or some sort of algorithm that's looking out for your best interest, then you're automatically going to be controlled and swayed by algorithms that don't necessarily have your best interests at heart. Think about it. Fast food companies, for instance, invest millions, if not billions of dollars into advertising to convince you to buy their products. Grocery stores make a lot more money when you have to walk past all of the hyper palatable foods to get to the fruits and vegetables in the back. Also, social media algorithms, they aren't really designed to give you the healthiest or best content. They're designed to show you the content that's most likely to keep you on the platform for the longest amount of time, because that's how they make money. I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to opt into an algorithm like Blueprint that would control my life. But I think it's worth asking, how much control do you really have over yourself already? And would an algorithm like Blueprint actually help you gain more control? I'm curious what you think. Let me know in the comments. Okay, so that explains what Blueprint is. It's an algorithmic approach to slowing the speed of aging. Something that there's also a lot of confusion on is why Bryan Johnson is doing Blueprint. To understand this, it's helpful to take a broad look at human history. In roughly 5000 BC, the first signs of money and writing begin to emerge. Fast forward to 1492 AD, and Columbus discovers a previously unknown continent. Fast forward to the 1860s, modern germ theory is developed. Before then, it was pretty common for doctors to not wash their hands between surgeries and to not sterilize their equipment between cutting different people up. In 1886, the first car was invented. In 1945, the first nuclear test happens. In 1969, man lands on the moon. 2001, the first draft of the human genome is published. In 2012, gene editing with CRISPR. And in 2020, ChatGPT 3 launches, and people begin to realize, wait a second, we might be on the verge of creating artificial intelligence. I left a lot of important things out on that timeline, but the point is technology is accelerating at a rapid pace. If you were born into a family of shepherds in 5000 BC, you could have predicted with pretty high levels of certainty what your great-great-grandkids would be doing. They would probably also be shepherds. If you were born in 2024, it would be nearly impossible for you to predict what your great-grandkids would be doing in 2124. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has said publicly that he expects AGI to be a reality within the next 5 years. Furthermore, in a recent interview at Stanford, he explained that a lot of OpenAI employees that come into the company not believing that we're going to achieve artificial general intelligence quickly change their minds about that. So on that timeline that we just looked at, going from 5000 BC all the way to 2024, 5 years is a baby step. It's the blink of an eye. So what does all this mean? As humans, we're on the verge of creating another form of intelligence. And all we can say with certainty is that we don't know what the future holds, but the possibilities are limitless. So what does this have to do with the why behind Blueprint? Blueprint's not really about living forever. It's not really about achieving immortality. The why behind Blueprint can be summed up in two very optimistic words: don't die. Basically, Bryan Johnson's entire argument with Blueprint is that the future is going to be amazing and you don't want to miss it, so don't die. Actively avoid death. That's the why. Don't die because we're on the verge of an unimaginable existence. Okay, I hope you're still with me. I know that was a lot. I hope that makes this whole Blueprint thing make more sense though. Now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what's changed with Blueprint over the past year. When I started experimenting with Blueprint, Bryan was in a 20% caloric deficit. This means that he was eating 20% fewer calories than his calculated daily caloric allowance. The reason that he was doing this is because there are some promising studies showing that caloric restriction can increase one's lifespan and slow one's speed of aging. There are a few problems though with being in this much of a caloric deficit, and we'll get to those in a moment here. So when I first got on Blueprint, I was in about a 20 to 25% caloric deficit. This is partly why I lost 28 pounds so quickly. Losing significant amounts of muscle can impact your cardiovascular fitness. I noticed that in the first month after I started Blueprint, my VO2 max dropped by quite a bit. From what I've read and from what people have told me, my cardio probably took this much of a hit because I lost so much muscle mass. In other words, the muscles in my heart were probably weakened due to cutting that hard. Now, fortunately, after about a month, my metabolism slowed down and I stopped losing weight that fast. But in the first month, I lost about 20 of the 28 pounds, which is quite a lot. I don't think that for somebody my weight, it's good to lose 5 pounds a week for 4 weeks in a row. Another downside of being in a caloric deficit like this is that it can reduce your natural testosterone levels. To get around this, Bryan was taking a fairly low dose of TRT by using a patch. After reviewing some of the evidence, Bryan and his team decided to increase his caloric intake by about 10% or 250 calories per day. And I'm pretty sure that for a short while after that, he discontinued using TRT. I think he might be using a little bit of TRT, but at a lower dose now. I'm not positive. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. The TRT thing is not really the point though. The point is this: being at a 10% caloric deficit versus a 20% caloric deficit is quite a bit more sustainable in my opinion. For the past few weeks, I've been fully on this updated version of the Blueprint protocol. And to be honest, a lot of the hunger and cravings that I would get in the afternoon on the 20 to 25% caloric deficit have gone away. I'm now at a true 10% caloric deficit for my calculated caloric needs. So yeah, it feels pretty good. And instead of losing 5 pounds a week, I've lost maybe 1 to 2 pounds a week. Another important change to the Blueprint protocol is that there's no more Green Giant. For those of you that don't remember the Green Giant, it was a diabolical beverage whose primary ingredient was powdered algae. I drank that vile health potion for 75 days in a row, and then in October of last year, Bryan Johnson discontinued it. Even after 75 consecutive days of drinking it, I never really got used to it, so I'm really happy that it's out of the protocol now. Probably the biggest change with Blueprint is that Bryan Johnson now sells his own line of food and supplements. I was a little bit skeptical about these at first, and I still haven't tried everything, but I can say that at least the olive oil and the cocoa powder are really good. The The reason that I've tried those two products specifically is that it's very difficult to find high quality extra virgin olive oil that's not rancid or cut with seed oils and that is tested. If you can find high quality extra virgin olive oil that meets all of the Blueprint criteria, then at least in the US, it's going to be just as much, if not a little bit more expensive than the olive oil that Bryan is selling. So I decided to go ahead and opt in and just buy his olive oil. With chocolate or cocoa powder, it's best to find something that doesn't have a ton of heavy metals in it. A lot of dark chocolate has a lot of heavy metals in it. Sourcing high quality chocolate is pretty difficult. Also, it's kind of cool that he tells you exactly how much caffeine is in a serving of the chocolate. I don't think I've ever seen that on cocoa powder, and that's something that I really appreciate as I'm trying to be mindful of my caffeine intake. So those are the really big changes to Blueprint. In general, over the past year, Blueprint has become way more accessible and way more easy to do. A headline that gets thrown around a ton is that Bryan Johnson spends $2 million a year on his Blueprint protocol. Now, this is a really eye-catching number because it's ridiculous and it makes a lot of people go, oh my goodness, what is this guy doing? But it's a little bit misleading because in reality, you can do most of Blueprint for a fraction of that cost, like a very attainable cost. In fact, the parts of Blueprint that most people, especially people in America, should be doing are pretty inexpensive. You can get 80 to 90% of the benefits from what Bryan Johnson is doing by following 5 to 6 simple power laws. So here are the 5 fundamental power laws of Blueprint that will get you 80 to 90% of the benefits for a fraction of the effort and a fraction of the cost. Power law 1, don't smoke or stop smoking. Smoking is the leading preventable cause of death and it impairs nearly every organ in your body. So if you smoke, quitting smoking is one of the best things that you can do for your health. Power law 2, limit alcohol consumption. Alcohol can seriously disrupt your sleep, recovery, and overall health. I want to say that Dr. Peter Attia, one of the leading longevity experts, recommends that you limit yourself to 2 drinks per week. If you want to see an entire video on alcohol, let me know in the comments below and I'll consider making one. Power law number 3, work out at least 6 hours per week. There are 3 main components to this to focus on: strength, stability, and cardio fitness. If you want way more information on this, make sure to sign up for the free guide to Blueprint, link in the description below. Power law 4, eat a Blueprint or Mediterranean-like diet. Power law 5, keep your BMI between 18 and 24.9. BMI is not a perfect measure, but keeping your BMI in this range can help you avoid a lot of major chronic diseases. If you want to get into Blueprint, I would recommend that you try to master these fundamentals before you branch out into doing crazy biohacky things, like spending a lot of time on ice bath, sauna, red light therapy. Mastering the fundamentals is 90%, and so many people get caught up in doing the 10% that really doesn't do too much to move the needle in your life. So master the fundamentals first and then branch out to the other things. It's boring, it's not sexy, but that's my honest advice. Master the fundamentals and then move on to the more exciting things. I want to wrap things up by giving you a few of my tips and tricks for making Blueprint a bit easier to do. If you decide to do Blueprint and you don't want to buy the powdered versions of Nutty Pudding and Super Veggie from Bryan Johnson, that's fine. Here are a few things that will speed up your meal prepping process. When I first started experimenting with Blueprint, I would buy all my fruits and vegetables fresh. Like I would go to the store, I'd find like 15 fresh heads of broccoli, and then I'd bring them home, chop them all up, carve off all the parts that you can't really eat. And it just took forever to prep the vegetables. Now I don't do that anymore. There are a few reasons. 1, it took forever. 2, it was pretty expensive. And 3, if you're buying all of your vegetables and fruits fresh, there isn't always great quality control with them. So what I do now is I go to Costco and I buy everything organic, frozen, and in bulk. So you can get organic broccoli there, riced cauliflower, which is literally just cauliflower that they've cut up into rice-sized pieces. It doesn't have any other ingredients in it though. It's literally just organic cauliflower, organic strawberries, blueberries, but I get all of them frozen because they're just gonna get blended up into my Super Veggie or my Nutty Pudding. Having the fruits and veggies already prepped so that all I have to do is weigh them out has been a game changer. Like it saves so much time. So I highly recommend getting a Costco membership. That free guide to Blueprint has the exact list of things that I buy when I go to Costco. So if you want that, go ahead and click the link in the description and sign up for that. It's free. I've been shopping for Blueprint like this for months. And what's really cool to see is that my biomarkers haven't taken a hit from switching to frozen foods. They've actually just kept getting better. Okay, the other huge tip for Blueprint, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people, but try to avoid cheat days. Try to set a period of 2 months maybe where you just go all in on Blueprint and avoid cheat days altogether. So back around the holidays, I got on this 80-20 version of Blueprint, where for weekdays, I would be really strict on Blueprint, eating really clean, and then on the weekends I would kind of just eat whatever I wanted, eat what everybody was eating at social gatherings and whatnot. This was fun, but then I kind of let that stretch out into the new year and into February. I realized that all the progress I make during the week would get erased by the weekends. Whereas if you just opt fully into the algorithm and say, you know what, this is how I'm gonna live for the foreseeable future, you'll notice that your biomarkers improve at kind of a crazy rate. Like my HRV, for example, when I'm fully on Blueprint for a sustained amount of time, will increase in month 2 by quite a substantial amount. And my resting heart rate tends to drop by like 5 or 6 beats per minute if I'm on Blueprint for more than 1 month. If you decide to give this a try, I strongly recommend that you set a period of time, like 1 or 2 months, so that you can fully experience the benefits of going all in on an algorithm or protocol like this. One more tip, this wasn't widely known when I first started Blueprint, but Bryan Johnson has talked about this on a number of interviews since then. If he's going out with friends or family, or if he's planning to go out to a restaurant with people, he will skip his third variety meal of the day, and he'll save those calories to have some steamed veggies or a salad with the people while he's out. If you go out to a restaurant with people and you're not eating anything, you're gonna get asked a lot of questions, and you'll probably make some people uncomfortable. If you go out with people and they're drinking, a helpful social compliance thing is to order a sparkling water with some lime. It's delicious, and if you've got a drink in your hand, nobody's gonna ask you why you don't have a drink or try to get you a drink. Those are just a couple things to keep in mind when you're doing Blueprint. People are gonna think it's weird, people aren't gonna get it, but you're gonna feel amazing if you stick with it. I hope this was helpful to you and that you learned something. Again, reminder to grab your free copy of the 2024 guide to Blueprint. It's completely free and it's packed with tons of value. Like, it literally has my entire playbook to getting into biohacking and Blueprint. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.